This is Dan Seifert with mobileburn.com, and this is a look at the Nokia 808 PureView. At first blush, the Nokia 808 PureView is a pretty uninspiring smartphone. It's got a very basic 4-inch display with a pretty low resolution. It's 360 by 640 pixels, so it's not very pixel dense for today's standards. It is a clear black AMOLED display though, so it does offer nice viewing angles, as you can see here, and bright punchy colors. As far as the phone itself, it's a pretty heavy 169 grams. It's all plastic clad, and as you can see, it's quite thick as well, measuring about 13.9 millimeters thick at its thickest point. So it's definitely not a slim, svelte, modern-looking smartphone by any means. It's powered by Nokia's pretty dated Symbian Bell operating system, which is the latest version of Symbian that's available, but these days Symbian is definitely not up to par with the more modern operating systems. As you can see, it looks very similar to Android. It's even got widgets and shortcuts that you can put on the various home screens. It's got a pull-down notification bar up here, very, very Android-like, but it's not really the same thing as Android. You don't have nearly as many apps available to you. You don't have the ease of use, customizability, or the ecosystem that you get with Android or iOS for that matter. It does come with a bunch of apps preloaded. Nokia is very good about installing a lot of apps out of the box on their phones, but once you get beyond those, it is difficult to find apps that you might be looking for that are very popular on other platforms. But I'm not going to dwell too much on the errors and the problems with Symbian, because really the only reason that we care about this particular phone is because of this camera that it has on the back. It's got a Carl Zeiss lens with a 41 megapixel camera underneath it, and this is Nokia's new PureView technology that the company's been working on for about 5 years, and it is really quite a breakthrough in imaging technology, and this 808 PureView is pretty much a showcase for that technology. So why don't we just jump right into the camera here. What you can do is, it's got a dedicated hardware camera key, so you can hold that down to launch the actual camera app itself. And once you launch it, you're into a pretty standard looking camera interface. You've got controls for flash, exposure controls, you've got some white balance settings here in this particular mode. You can actually control your ISO all the way up to ISO 1600 if you'd like. And then down here you've got what's called a neutral density filter, which will allow you to take a long exposure in a bright environment. So if you wanted to take like a flowing river and get the waves of the river looking very blurred, you could use the neutral density filter for that. Over here, if we hit the top button there, we access all of our settings. Fully automatic is exactly that, just fully automatic. Then you've got various scene modes that should be familiar to anybody that's really ever used a digital camera for close-up, portrait, action, nighttime, etc. But where things get interesting is when you get into the creative mode, and that gives you 3 different settings that you can set up and quickly switch between them so that you can have different presets essentially. Now, what we're looking at here is the different sensor mode. Now this, as I mentioned, is a 41 megapixel image sensor. However, you can only record up to 38 megapixel images thanks to cropping or aspect ratios. So you have a choice between a PureView mode, which we'll look at in a moment, or the full resolution mode. In the full resolution mode, you can shoot in 4:3 or 16:9 aspect ratios. You've got options between normal and superfine image quality. You can adjust the tones of the color. You can do bracketing and interval and cell timer. Adjust saturation, contrast, and sharpness. So you do have a lot of creative controls here that you don't normally see on a lot of other smartphones. Now, just to give you an example of what you can do with a 38 megapixel smartphone camera, we're going to take a couple quick pictures here. This does have tap to focus, as you can see. It focuses pretty quickly. Of course, you can also hold the shutter halfway down to focus, and then all the way down to take the picture. So let's just bang out a couple shots here and see what we get for a little R2-D2 here. Now, this is pretty good looking. Where it really gets impressive is when you zoom in, though. And you can really see some quite incredible details from a 38 megapixel image. I was not holding the camera very steady here, obviously. You can see some blur there. But you can see how far I've zoomed in on that image on the screen. Now, as impressive as it is on the phone itself, it's even more impressive when you look at it on a computer screen and really blow it up to its full potential. Here we go, that's a little bit sharper, and you can see the detail that can be captured there. Quite impressive, quite radical as far as imaging technology goes. Now the full resolution mode is good for when you want to capture a lot of detail and you've got a lot of light. But Nokia thinks that most people are going to be using the PureView mode. And the PureView mode is really where this camera is very unique. Not only do you have the high resolution option on the full resolution mode, but the PureView mode lets you choose between 8, 5, and 3 megapixel settings. And then you've got your aspect ratio and your JPEG qualities and all the other controls that you have on the normal full resolution mode. Now, what you can do with these lower resolution settings is what Nokia says how it works is it captures all of the data that you would normally get with the 38 megapixel mode, but then it combines 7 or 4 pixels, depending on the resolution here, into one. And it gives all that data into one pixel, creating like a super pixel. What that lets you do is get greater sensitivity in low light, so you have better dynamic range, better sensitivity. You can shoot in lower light scenarios than you normally would. And then you can also do this, which is pretty wild. You've got what's called lossless zooming here. As you can see, I zoomed in all the way on my subject. I can snap a picture of him, and I'm still getting a full 5 megapixel resolution image. You can see the kinds of details that we get there. Even when full zooming, and that's pretty impressive. That's not something that any other smartphone can really do, and you just drag your finger along the screen here to zoom in on your subject. It's quite impressive. It works very well. It's very smooth, and I really can't say enough about how impressive this type of photography is and what it can let you do with a smartphone. You can get really shallow depth of field with this that you don't normally get with another smartphone, and you can mimic a real full-size camera quite easily. Just to take a look at the flash settings here, the PureView is also unique in that it offers a xenon flash unit. Nokia's put that on a couple of its high-end camera phones in the past, but it's not something that we really see on other camera phones. Normally we see a pretty lousy LED flash, but with this you get an actual flash. As you can see, the flash bulb goes off, so you can take better pictures in low light. You can use a fill flash if you need to, and really just works a whole heck of a lot better than on a normal LED flash. Now if we switch over to video mode, the 808 PureView records 1080p video, so at 30 frames per second, and it also of course records sound. The PureView video mode gives you the same type of features that you'd get in the PureView still mode. So while you're recording video, so if we start shooting our subject here, we can focus on him. You can tap to focus while recording, and it has continuous autofocus. And then, of course, you can zoom while recording as well. And you get a very smooth type of zoom in, and so you get this lossless zooming while you're recording your subject, which is pretty impressive. Then you also have the option to pause your video or stop it. So we're going to stop that, and we'll take a look at the playback here.
On him, you can tap to focus while recording, and it has continuous autofocus. And then, of course, you can zoom while recording as well. You get a very smooth type of zoom in, and so you get this lossless zooming while you're recording your subject, which is pretty impressive. Then you also have the option to pause your video or...
So there you go. Even the audio is captured is very good as well. Nokia claims that you can record audio well over 100 decibels clearly with the 808 PureView. So if you're recording something like a live music performance, you can do that with the PureView. Other video modes that you got, you can turn on a video light, which uses an LED light next to the xenon flash. You've got some brightness controls here, scene modes again, and then you can toggle your continuous autofocus mode there. So the real story here with the Nokia 808 PureView is its camera, and it is every bit as impressive as you might have heard. But as far as a smartphone goes, the 808 PureView is really not a great smartphone at all. There's a lot of issues with it as far as with the platform it's running on, and it's got a fairly slow processor in there for today's standards. And it costs about $700. You can order this pretty much anywhere in the world these days. But and here in the United States, it's unlocked and it works on AT&T or T-Mobile. But I'm not sure that this is something that the average smartphone buyer, or even someone who is really into taking pictures with their smartphone, should buy just yet, because it really is kind of like a collector's item, or for someone who just really loves the Symbian platform. But what is nice about this particular device is that Nokia has promised to bring this technology to its Windows Phone smartphones in the future. So it's going to come to the Lumia line at some point in the future. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly when, but trust me, we'll be pretty excited when we can get a PureView camera on a Lumia smartphone. So there you go. That's a look at the Nokia 808 PureView and its awesome 41 megapixel camera with a Carl Zeiss lens. This is Dan Seifert with mobileburn.com. Thanks for watching.